So it appears that Arne Slot's honeymoon period is well and truly over, as Nottingham Forest beat Liverpool by a 1-0 at Anfield this weekend. Now, Slot has come under a little bit of criticism. Me personally, I think the players maybe have got to hold their hands up a little bit. But let's have a look at why Slot has been criticised and why it may be or may not be a little bit unfair. Okay, so it seems that the main reason that Arne Slot has faced some criticism over what happened in the Nottingham Forest Liverpool game was the fact that this is the fourth game where he hasn't rotated his team, if maybe you set aside that Ipswich game where Jalo Quanta started for the first 45 minutes and then was hooked at half-time for Ibrahim Konate. Obviously, we've just come out of an international break, and 7 out of Liverpool's starting 11 actually played the maximum amount of minutes for the international team. So that's Trent Alexander-Arnold, Virgil van Dijk, Ryan Gravenberch, Dominic Szoboszlai, Alisson, Luis Diaz and Andy Robertson. They all played 90 minutes in both their international ties. Now, the other players that started, Mo Salah, he played 165 minutes. Alexis McAllister, 105. Diogo Jota, 92. And Ibrahim Konate, 90 minutes. So all the team played, significant amount of minutes for their international teams, with McAllister and Diaz also travelling from South America. Now, this might have been the ideal time for Arne Slot to maybe introduce some kind of rotation to the starting 11, and he chose not to. Now, I understand that. I mean, managers can often be obsessed with rhythm and keeping a starting lineup, especially if your team has won 3 games and conceded 0 goals. So it kind of makes sense that he wants to put what he considers to be his strongest lineup out on the pitch to try and win the game and then rotate in the game after that. But were there any opportunities here to bring in some slight rotation to freshen their legs up? Now, I think it's fair to say that there were 3 players here who were, I think, key members of the squad under Jurgen Klopp, got a lot of minutes under Jurgen Klopp, and at best have had cameo roles so far this season. Now, I'm talking Darwin Núñez, Curtis Jones and Joe Gomez, all sitting on the bench on Saturday. All could have shouts for starting. Maybe you'd say that they're rusty, especially with Gomez and Jones, who haven't really played any minutes. But I think there's time there. I think Darwin Núñez in particular maybe had a shout for starting this game. Obviously, he's banned from international football at the moment, so he stayed at home. He's just been training. He's just been focusing on Liverpool and thinking about Liverpool, because he'll be desperate to get out there on the pitch and score some goals. He did get 30 minutes or so on the pitch, and you could say, well, he didn't exactly pull up any trees. He didn't really do much. That's fair to say, but I think at that point of the game, Liverpool were quite chaotic anyway. They were a bit of a mess, and no one was really coming out of that period with flying colours. So I think there is a fair shout there for Darwin Núñez to start that game, because he's there anyway. So why not give him a go? If he's played for the final 30 minutes, why not start him? Use a bit of that chaotic energy. We all know that Nottingham Forest were going to sit deep, the old low block and all that. They were going to try all these kind of methods that these kind of teams employ at Anfield. And fair play to them, good luck to them. They were very physical. They were trying to take Liverpool out of their rhythm. They were congesting central areas up. They were doing all this, and Liverpool didn't really have an answer for that. Maybe Darwin Núñez up there doing his Captain Chaos kind of routine. Could that have done anything? Maybe not. Curtis Jones, I think, actually was one player that I thought would start, because Alexis McAllister apparently picked up some kind of small knock there. So he was a slight doubt to start. I was expecting Curtis Jones to start. And I think slotting into that kind of, not that Liverpool played with the double pivot, Gravenberch was a single pivot, but playing in a slightly deeper role there, I think suits Curtis Jones. He's a possession machine, but I also think that he could play that more advanced role where Szoboszlai was. I think he could do that quite well as well. So I think there was room there to bring in some really fresh legs and try something a little bit different against a team which really were really good at causing problems for Liverpool. I mean, that's one of the best performances I've seen at Anfield in a while. I'm going to compare it to a game last season, towards the end of last season, where Liverpool were beaten 1-0 by Crystal Palace at Anfield. In that game, Liverpool actually should have been more clinical. We had a lot more chances than we did against Forest. The problem with Forest was we weren't creative enough. We weren't able to create those chances. But it was a similar kind of performance of trying to nullify Liverpool, trying to make things difficult, staying in the game, and then knowing that you will get a chance. And when that chance comes, you've got to be clinical. That's what happened with Palace. That's what happened with Nottingham Forest. They were brilliant. So was there anything good? Well, the first half I thought Liverpool actually started quite well. Luis Diaz in particular, I thought he was aggressive on the front foot. Was really unlucky not to score a goal when he hit the post after an absolutely brilliant bit of work to keep the ball in, to pressure his man, to win the ball. Really, really positive and physical football. Kind of deserved the goal. It didn't happen. But then towards the end of the first half, he faded. And the second half, he really faded. Liverpool started with a lot of positive ideas. I think Trent was trying to release Mo Salah. I thought Virgil van Dijk was trying to release Mo Salah. Everyone was trying to release Salah early. And Salah his touch was just so heavy. It just wasn't happening. It was really poor. His decision making was poor. You could probably say the same as the game went on for Dominic Szoboszlai. In fact, with the two of them, Dominic Szoboszlai, his pass success rate percentage in the game was 78%. His average for the season was 93%. So you can see there's a real drop there. Same with Mo Salah. His pass completion against Forest was 70%, down from a season average of 87%. So you can see how Liverpool's standards really dropped against Nottingham Forest. And that kind of brings me on to what I think was Slot's biggest kind of mistake. Where I see him going wrong is just not having a viable plan B. And it's just not there. And we saw similarities with different times with Jurgen Klopp in similar positions. So I wouldn't dig Slot out in particular, because it is a tricky thing when a team comes here and plays like Forest did. How do you beat them? It looked like Slot panicked and with what happened. So Trent comes on, first and foremost. Trent moves into midfield around 60 minutes. I think, that's a positive move. I wasn't expecting that. I like that, trying to get your most creative player on the pitch, on the ball. So that was interesting. It didn't really work out. He was in those central positions. Nottingham Forest was just filling out those central positions. So it was very difficult for Trent to get time and space on the ball and to be able to do stuff. Because, when he did get the ball, it's very difficult for the players around him to successfully move into space where he likes to obviously pass the ball and to knock it into that space. And Forest end up going a little bit deeper. Obviously, Forest score around 71 minutes. And then Arne Slot makes these changes. And what happened after that, I don't think it's altogether clear. Liverpool switched to a three at the back. Kostas Tsimikas, Virgil van Dijk, Conor Bradley. That's your three at the back. What's happening above that, I don't really know. Ryan Gravenberg's sitting, and then it just seems like it's a little bit of a free-for-all. Trent's up there, Szoboszlai's up there, and it seems like the plan B against Forest was just trying to put your most creative players on the pitch at the same time, but there was a real lack of structure in what was going on, and it was a bit of a mess. What I would love to see from Arne Slot, and we're 4 games in, so I think he's still trying to get his plan A into players' minds, let alone a plan B. But I would love to see more of a structured and dedicated plan B for these kind of situations, rather than just kind of pressing the panic button and putting loads of creative players on the pitch at the same time. There's just no balance, no structure, and no patience to that team. And as I say, it looks like a panic move in the middle of September. That's kind of worrying. You don't want to see these kind of moves in the middle of September when there was still 16 minutes of normal time to go, good 20 minutes of the game to go. I think it just needed something different. I would really like to see Darwin Núñez utilised in a different way. So he's a different player than Diogo Jota. He's a different player than Cody Gakpo. If he's going to be playing in central positions, I think let's do something a little bit different with him. Which I always thought that was the reason for buying him. He can give you something a little bit different in those games when you can't make a breakthrough. I think we should be using him more as a central target man, or even playing slightly off to the left a little bit there. But as a target man, someone who can bring it down on his chest, someone who can get flick-ons, and you get some runners close by, Szoboszlai, Diaz, Salah, players who can run off him. And I know that's not how Liverpool want to be playing, is like a bit more direct football with people knocking it down for runners. But in games like this, you need something a little bit different. If your plan A isn't working, try something different. It's give the opposition something different to think about, a different kind of problem to try and solve. And when you've got Darwin Núñez there, he's going to be playing for us till January at least, maybe the end of the season at least. Let's try and use him to our advantage. So I think putting him on here and there and ask him to feed off scraps, he's not going to gain confidence from that. I think Liverpool players around him aren't going to gain confidence from that. Let's try and utilise his strange skill set to our advantage. That's where I would say Arne Slot kind of blundered a little bit against Forest. Just that lack of a cohesive plan B, and that just kind of Jackson Pollock formation of after 74 minutes when it's just a complete mess. I mean, there's so many players on the pitch in those central areas at that point. We're still not looking at any kind of overlaps, and having three at the back isn't giving us any overlaps for any width. I mean, if you look at a heat map here, you can see the kind of areas that Liverpool are playing on, just really trying to play it through the middle, which I like. But when the opposition are playing with, essentially five in midfield, later on I think it was five in defence, but they essentially had five men in midfield, two sitting, and then three, I guess, slightly above there, but they had the kind of flexibility to move back and to kind of move into a more of a narrow shape to make it really difficult for Liverpool to gain any space there. And if you look at Nottingham Forest's heat map, you can see what they were doing when they were breaking. You can see how they were having any successes by moving in those wide areas when they got the opportunity. And that's the story of the game, really. I think Slot just needs, not that he showed a lack of respect to Forest and Premier League teams, but I think if he didn't realise beforehand how competitive the Premier League is, then I think he really knows now. And I think this has got to be a little bit of a red flag for him. But it's always going to be an up and down season. I don't know what success for Liverpool is this season. I think if we get top four, that'd be brilliant. Maybe we can challenge for a cup. That'd be fantastic. Let's just see what happens. I think it is going to be somewhat of a transitional season, even though we have got a really good squad. At the end of the day, Liverpool are in the Champions League, going to Milan, San Siro. If you're going, enjoy it. Have the time of your life. I love it in the San Siro. And hopefully we can get, 3 points. Still not quite sure how it's working in this Champions League new era. I can see very little rotation from the Forest game. I imagine Cody Gakpo is going to start ahead of Diogo Jota. There's my prediction for that. I'm going to say it might be 1-1. Let's see what happens. So enjoy the match and up the Reds.